When you're learning to step into your higher self on this spiritual path and journey, a lot of people are like, fuck the ego, we've got to get rid of the ego. And there's all this talk about like the ego. But the truth is, it's a part of us. Just as there's duality, day and night, dark and light, we've got an ego and a higher self. And when we can bring those into balance and harmony, that is where we find the sweet spot of freedom and living a conscious life with the protection and the discernment that the ego is here to help us with. Hey, we're Britt and Chris Carmichael, and you're listening to the Elevated Life Podcast. Throughout the 13 years we've been together, we've never ceased in our endless quest to better ourselves.
We've studied top experts, philosophers, and gurus. After years of personal self-experimentation, we found the tools for shifting your beliefs, moving through fears, and developing a positive mindset.
If you're ready for a breakthrough, then you're in the right place, because we're here to empower you to take control of your life with simple mindset shifts that create radical transformation.
We'll be diving into topics like personal growth, health, philosophy, spirituality, relationships, success, and mindfulness.
So create some space for yourself and get comfy. It's time to become the badass you were born to be. Okay, real talk. The ego gets a bad rap. There are all these spiritual memes on Instagram about like punching the ego in the face and all of that. But the truth is our ego is...
I love spiritual memes.
Oh my God, they're so funny. The truth is our ego is actually here to protect us. And it does a really good job at protecting us. But it also does it in a way that is an unconscious program. And so a lot of the times when we've gone through past experiences that are harmful, our ego will pop up in the present and be like, nope, we've been there, done that. We're not getting ourselves into that. And a lot of the times, if we aren't consciously aware of the way that we experience the ego, it can kind of feel overwhelming. It can feel like, you're beating yourself up. It can feel like, this ego is like beating me up. They think like inner mean girl and ego are the same, but it really isn't. The ego's there to set those boundaries and to protect you from repeating those past experiences.
The ego is such an important mechanism, and the fact that we give it no credit and we're always just, I just want to be my higher self. We live on a material plane. Like that's where we are. You have to come and face where you are, and then how do we make the best experience out of that? And the ego will help you out a ton. I want to build my confidence. I want to be brave. I want to have courage. You need a good ego. You need your ego to be strong as shit. I'm not talking about cocky ego that's annoying to everybody that you're around. I'm talking
about overcompensating.
I'm talking about the kind of deal where you come face to face with an opportunity and without a shadow of a doubt, I've got this. I've got this, where your ego is cheering you on. Britt hit it in the beginning though. The ego is a protection mechanism, and most of ours have been programmed that way. That's the way it starts off. So if you were to get up in second grade class and the first time you're ever speaking in front of people and everyone laughs at you and points and shames you, guess what happens the next time you're going to be up in front of people? Your ego says, oh shit, man, we've been here before. This was bad. We felt bad for days.
Mayday.
Yeah, the alarms are sounding and the horns being blown. And so your ego protects you. And the way that it does that, it makes you sick to your stomach. It makes your hands get all sweaty. It makes your throat close up because it's trying to get you to avoid being in that situation because it sucked in the previous time. And so a lot of times when I'm helping out clients with hypnosis, we go back. We have to re-educate the ego. We have to re-strengthen it, because if you have years of doing this, your mind is super lazy. What it wants to do is, what's the easiest pattern for me to get to where I want to go? And its biggest thing for you is to make sure that you survive. And so as a survival mechanism, it will stop you from doing stuff, just like I just talked about. It stops you from being able to get up and publicly speak. This is one of the biggest fears people have. I mean, it's wild to see how this manifests. It also happens when we're in relationships. If your last relationship ended horribly, if the person cheated on you with your best friend or your sister or then when you get into that next relationship, the ego wants to protect you. Like, hey, we were vulnerable. We allowed this person in. They treated us like shit. Now we feel worse. We feel ugly. We feel not lovable. And so you get into that space. And when you go into the next relationship, you carry that over. And so being able to strengthen the ego allows you to mitigate those crappy responses that you have to life. And what's great is once you actually do it, so much of life gets easier. because you've got a cheerleader inside your head now. You've got someone that goes, yes, we can, instead of, oh no, here we go. We're just a bum, just a loser.
Same old.
Nothing's going to be able to change. Or I'm just not that lucky. It's not that so many people are getting lucky all the time. It's that they believe in themselves. And you start doing all of that by taking your ego, not dismissing it, not calling it names and stuff, not sitting it over there in the corner. You bring it into your realm and you say, hey, I've got this friend on my shoulder.
Hey, Karen.
Hey, hey, sweet stuff. Let's do this. Let's do this together. Let's build this thing up. And doing that will allow you to accomplish your dreams, your goals, and those kind of things so much faster. This is totally different than the higher self. This is different than spiritual work. This is being able to live in the material plane and do it well. To be able to make a lot of money, to be able to run the kind of business that you want, to be able to find the relationships, to feel worthy of all the stuff.
And to help lead people.
It's everything. It is when we're talking in material world, the ego is everything. Spiritual world, we're talking about something different. We're talking about something beyond the material. We're talking about self-discovery. So when we mean ego, we do mean how do you think of yourself? What is your self-image? Remember, this is just a role that you play. What's beautiful about this is that it's all made up. All made up. How you view yourself is an image. All images are false. And so because of that, we can manipulate it to be whatever it is that we want to be. We just have to make conscious decisions to do that. So remember this. Whoever you have been in the past, maybe it's someone that's worried, maybe it's somebody that's anxious, maybe it's somebody that's afraid of every little bitty thing, maybe it's someone who just felt like, nope, this life's not for me, is false. And at any moment, you can flip that switch and become whoever it is that you really are in this life. So, high on the courage, high on the confidence, very successful, very charismatic, all those terms that we use to describe people who are just knocking it out of the park. That can be you. But all of it starts with whatever images you're seeing about yourself in your head, because you only do as well as you believe yourself to be. If your self-image sucks, you will suck. And it won't matter what life gives you, it will always be rotten lemons. And the opposite is true. If you believe yourself to be a certain way, you will constantly attract opportunities to you. This is what people are always talking about, law of attraction. It's about changing who you believe yourself to be and what's capable in your life, and then believing that so much that you draw in the experiences that you need to prove it right. Your mind's always trying to prove you right. So if you picture yourself as sucky and shitty, that's what you'll get. If you picture yourself the other way long enough and believe it, that's what you get too.
Henry Ford says, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. And this is one of the lessons that I teach in Shine School, is making friends with your inner mean girl. She's not a bitch. She's hurt. And you have to have that open conversation and dialogue with that part, that mechanism of yourself that stands, it's like the gatekeeper before anything touches your subconscious, your beliefs, and deep down into that vulnerable spiritual essence of you. It has to pass through the ego. And instead of having her as an inner mean girl, you can actually start to have a conversation and say, why do I feel this way? Why do I feel hurt? Why do I not feel lucky? Or whatever these questions may be. And understanding that each one of these things where the ego is trying to support you, maybe sometimes it's programmed in a wrong way. You have the opportunity, like Chris said, to change it by making friends with your inner mean girl and asking, why do you respond that way? Or why are you calling me fat? Or why are why am I attracting these toxic relationships? You can start to ask yourself these questions and build a healthier balance between your ego supporting you versus pulling you down. It's kind of interesting how if we have our ego programmed in a negative way, you're fat, you're not good enough, you're this, you're that, a lot of that comes from our childhood years. And we don't even realize that we're operating with this unhealthy ego that's talking shit to us all the time. But what we don't realize is that we didn't even program it. And when you start to wake up to the fact that you are talking to yourself, that you are making mental images, you then, from only that space of awareness, can make those changes. And so once you finally hear yourself talking shit, which I'm pretty sure we're all advanced enough in our evolutionary growth that we are aware of what our inner dialogue is, what's going on, that inner chatter. And the second you can identify that negative inner chatter, you can begin to shift it. Having a healthy ego helps to create better boundaries in your life. And your ego is basically the first boundary that anyone that you come across will encounter and experience.
So the first thing I like to do, besides the awareness, because you have to be aware that you're talking to yourself. If you don't have that awareness, you need to sit on that for a little while, maybe do some yoga. Get quiet enough with yourself, go on walks, do something where you're not thinking about what the next thing in your life is. A lot of us spend our time on our to-do list, and so we ignore the whole inner dialogue that's really going on and really running our lives. We try to add cars or houses and buy stuff to fill in these gaps. But the truth is, if you can get your inner dialogue working right, you actually don't need any of the external stuff. They're all just add-ons, all just a little bit of gravy, a little gravy on the biscuit. And what you have to do is, or the way that I really like to do it, I found it the most simple way to do it, is I find that I close my eyes and I picture the version of myself I want to be. So it's me deciding what role do I want to play. The role is fake. You get to make it up, but you have to decide what the role is. If you don't, it's just the role that you've been given. And that's mostly from the mind re-accessing memories and experiences of memories that you've had. And so you want to be able to do this consciously. If you're unconscious about it, then you play out the cards and you feel like life is working against you. When you grab it the other way, you feel like you're more in the flow with life and things become easier. And so you want to decide, what's my role? Who do I want to be? In other words, what do I stand for? You hear a lot of people talk about virtues and like, what are my core values? This is what they're talking about. What's the role? So what mask are you willing to put on? You have to put one on to interact with the world, especially in social situations. You have to decide, am I going to be the funny guy? Am I going to be the playboy? Like, what am I going to be? Am I going to be the one that everybody comes to for advice? You decide. And then you set up your social situations, your life experiences, and you set up the rest of your lifestyle with what that person would do. So I close my eyes and I picture myself, okay, here's the role that I'm deciding. I want to be courageous. I want to be strong. I want to be brave. I want to be all these great things. And then I picture myself doing that. I picture what that would look like. And then I repeatedly do that every morning. So I just spend a few minutes. It doesn't take long. This is not something that you have to sit and meditate for 4 hours doing. 5 minutes. 2 minutes if you're in a rush. Sit down, get quiet, take a few deep breaths, and picture that you. Not the you who you've been thinking you've been, not the you who other people told you that you are. Those aren't important. Those are old, those are outdated. You let them go. You bring on the new image, and you focus on the new image enough times to where it replaces the old one. And so you have to sit down, get quiet. I got the picture of myself. I'm doing cool stuff. I feel good. I'm standing upright. I'm healthy. My body looks good. I'm feeling good I'm feeling confident. Look how I walk. Look how I talk to other people. I'm picturing all these things, imagining myself in different situations. And then once that is strong enough, and it has to be strong, you can't make crappy images. A lot of people, when they use their mind to do stuff, they make the images small and they're kind of dull and dim, and that won't work. You got to really be in this. Your mind knows when you're bullshitting. And so you have to do it with full effort. You got to do it with full emotion, full visuals. I like to make fireworks happening. I just like to make it intense. And so once you have that, you need to step into the image and start to be the image. And then play that out in your life. Try it on. Especially when you meet new people. Sometimes it's more difficult with older people because they've been used to seeing you a certain way. And so when you act in a different way, they're going to be like, whoa, this is what's happening. And that's fine. But know that resistance is going to come up. When you change something major in your life, people are weird because they don't know that new you. And so you have to reintroduce yourself. But anytime you go on a vacation, anytime you show up to the grocery store, anytime you talk to the Uber driver, anytime you go to the restaurant, you're that new you. So be it. Be it the way you dress, be it the way you describe yourself, be it with the thoughts that you think. You've got to be that person. You've got to practice being them. So you're adding in the role in your life as being an actor. And the act that you're playing out is the one that you want to play out. Stop living in somebody else's movie. Start deciding that you are the main hero, you're the main character. What do I want that to look like? Gotta spend time doing this. Maybe you would get a Sunday and take a few hours, just write down, what do I want to stand for? What am I doing? Why is this not working out the way that it could be? And what would I need to change in order to make that happen? Like, what kind of person would I be to make all my dreams come true? And that way you can start practicing at least seeing it, because your mind's got to see it first to even understand it. You got to give it, your mind doesn't know the difference when you imagine something or when you do it in real life. So if you imagine something enough, you start to believe it. So you have to believe that you're this character.
And they say you've got to believe it to see it. So it has to start in the mind. And one of my favorite hypnosis sessions that we've done together for specifically building the ego was the Rhino Pattern. Would you care to share a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I use a pattern we call Rhino. When someone's procrastinating a lot, and it gets them to visualize themselves in a new way. Basically, I have them imagine themselves that they're in a pasture and there's a bunch of cows, and that the cows are, just kind of lazy, just hanging out, not really doing anything. The flies are nagging at them, but you're a rhino. You've just been with cows your whole life, and so it's just grabbing on the mind, the subconscious, grabbing onto that mental image of the rhino and being able to take charge on things. Because the problem is, the worst thing for a rhino would be to hang out just with cows all day. I mean, that just wouldn't be the lifestyle. Just like if lions were hanging out with mice, it'd be weird. It's like that's not what lions are meant to do. They're meant to go be with other lions. And so the Rhino pattern is strong in the sense that when you're relaxed, when we're talking about hypnosis, we're just talking about relaxed states. It's nothing more complicated than that. We're talking about letting the mind soften enough, in other words, the thoughts to relax enough so that we can do really cool visual things or things in the body. And grabbing onto a new idea like this will allow you to see yourself in a new way. And that's all we really have to do. We have to see ourselves in this new way, and then we begin to act on that, because you only act out what you believe you are. And so if you think you're a rhino, you take charge on things. You're not a procrastinator. You're not going to wait around. Rhinos charge. They're crazy. I'm just getting out of the way. And so taking on images like this, even though we know that they're fake, we know all this stuff's fake. We know all the masks that we wear are fake. The people who we pretend we're being, I'm not really Chris Carmichael. That's a great idea, but that's not me. It's not me. I know, because I can change it. I can change my name tomorrow. For $400, I can go change who I am, which means that's not me. I can always change my career, because that's not me. Could always change my religion. That's not me. I could change where I live. That's not me. There's so much stuff that we do that's not us. But if we manipulate it in the right way and decide what it is that we want to be, we can be that. At least we can pretend to be, and life will show up in that way. So this is something different than the spiritual life, right? And the spiritual life is the deep knowingness that we are everything. We're all connected, that we're just this energy. Einstein came out and proved that so long ago. Everything's just energy. Matter's an illusion. And so we know that we're that, but we're pretending to be this other thing. And if you're going to pretend to be something, you need to pretend to be something that you're absolutely in love with, that you would want. Otherwise, you're just playing something out.
It's kind of like signing up for a play. Osho mentions life as Leela, which means play. And I think twofold: play as in an acting play, and play as in childhood joyfulness play. But it's like signing up for a character in a play. You wouldn't sign up for the character you don't want to be. There's a particular role that you feel drawn to, and that's the same with life. My particular role was empowering women. I wanted to choose a character that could do that, and I've been doing it in unique expressions in different ways. For example, I've been a hairdresser, I've been a boudoir photographer, a women's empowerment coach. I have found different roles to play, but with the same essence behind it. And I feel like the ego could be the essence in which we need to step into.
I'll tell you what's deeper than this too. What's a deeper level? So once you do this, like I said, a lot of life's easier. It's much easier, because you will automatically do the things that you need to do. Just like if you thought you were a bodybuilder, if in your mind you're like, I'm a bodybuilder. So what do? You go get bodybuilder friends, maybe get some protein powder, maybe
magazines.
Yeah, maybe you make the simple bodybuilder meals. You're eating chicken, broccoli, and rice, or if you're vegan, with tempeh, broccoli, and rice. You're doing those things, and they will happen automatically because you see yourself as that. So the deeper level to this is, once you're able to do that for yourself, and you can realize that you're not those things, when you're in conversations with other people, and when you hear other people talking about their problems, when you see their sadness, you realize that they're playing a role too. And sometimes they're not playing the role that they want to be playing. And you can see how much that wears on them because their actions are not aligned with where they want to be because they are continuing to see themselves as a loser. And so in their life, they become the loser. And they seem like a victim. They complain about everything. They blame everybody. But the truth about it is the mental image is just not where they need it to be. And so in that way, it's so much easier to be empathetic. What I like to do sometimes, especially when I see somebody in the throes with the only people that I know, but deep in the throes of their, pity party and they're crying, banging on the floor, being sad about everything, is I like to ask them, who are you pretending to be right now? What role are you pretending? And you see them give that weird look like, what do you mean? Like you're pretending to be a victim. What would be different right now if you were the hero in the story? Like what would your next action be and how would that be different? How would that be different than what you're doing? I don't know what that answer is. I don't know. I'm not ever trying to pose answers toward people. I'm always trying to give them questions so they can figure out what their answer is for themselves. And so seeing other people play those roles, and you'll notice it in your relationships big time. Go home to your parents and talk to them for a minute and find out which roles they're playing. Go to your spouse or your boyfriend, girlfriend, find out what roles they're playing. And notice that if they were to change those roles, how different would their life be? I know this makes like self-improvement really simple because it is. Because you're pretending.
I asked one of my coaching clients not that long ago, about her pretending. If you're going to pretend to be this like half-ass, mediocre, whatever, like why not pretend to be that full version of yourself that you're saying you want to be? It's so interesting for people to have, like, there's probably so many like aha, zing, like freaking whiz bang moments happening on the podcast right now for everyone listening. Like, what do you mean I'm pretending? For the victims, it's going to be really hard to accept that responsibility. But for the ones that are looking for change and willing to reclaim their power, this is going to be a huge wake-up call. Like, oh my God, I've been pretending to be not confident. I can just pretend to be confident. And the more you practice, the easier and more natural it becomes.
It sounds ridiculous.
It really does.
I mean, self-improvement is a game. I mean, it's just we see it all over the place and it's complicated. It's got all these, rules and we're supposed to do these things and affirmations and all this stuff. But it all comes down to how you visualize because that's where all the magic happens. Your subconscious mind is the most powerful part that you've got. And once it is aligned and once you're doing the actions that you want and all that stuff coordinates together, how you believe yourself to be, what you're actually doing and what you actually want to be doing. Once all those are all the same, life's a joke. I mean, it's so much more. You can just play. It's not so serious. Building the ego is not so serious. One thing I will say, though, is normally when I do sessions with clients, we don't ego build until the end. This is not something that we start off doing. A lot of the earlier steps are designed to do a lot of forgiveness work because many times when we've been playing victim for a long time, and it's easy to do because there are a lot of people in our lives that hurt us. And so they hurt us because we don't know who we are. And so we need what they say in order to allow the role that we really want to play to emerge because we don't know yet. And it's important to be able to forgive all of those people because they helped you. They helped you discover who you want to be. And that's one of the biggest reasons to forgive people. If you've been in crappy relationships before and they really burned you at the end, then you need to be able to forgive them because for one, you need to be able to move on, but to recognize that they assisted you. They helped you in some way to be able to discover something about yourself that had they not come along, had they not done those things, had they not said those cruel words, you wouldn't have evolved. You wouldn't have changed. We don't change during times of prosperity. For what? We change only during the hardships. So it's always important to embrace the challenges, to recognize that there are a lot of things that come up in our lives that are there just to be lessons. You hear all the time, life's just these lessons. And it's true. So when you can find it in your heart to forgive somebody because you needed that experience, even if it was super terrible, to come out on the other side and evolve yourself, or maybe it's so that you can be empathetic for other people, then you have a different scope of what's going on in life. And you can stop holding so many grudges over people. Because maybe that boss needed to be super shitty to you, so you find a better job. so you do something that you're happy with. It forces you to get out of your own skin, get out of your own way, to wake you up so you can build up that ego. And then once you have the ego built up, once you start doing this a lot and you feel good about your life, you've hit that success, which I think everyone deserves to have. I mean, 100%, you deserve to have this incredible life. I mean, just fucking incredible. Once you're done with the ego part, you've got your mind programmed the way you want it to be so that things are happening more automatic. You're not spinning your wheel so often. That's when the spiritual stuff starts to get really fun, because then you can just totally relax and you can watch yourself be successful. The spiritual life is all about watching. We want to complicate it more than that. We want to talk about hymnals and psalms and prayers and all that. But the spiritual work has to do with what you identify with. And here we're talking about the ego, so this is the material plane identification. But when we're talking about the spiritual self, you want to identify with with nothing.
Yeah,
the non-identification. Yeah. And when you can do both of them simultaneously, you're able to show up in a new way. You have gotten the best of both worlds. Because there's a lot of material stuff that's amazingly fun. A lot of beautiful things to be able to see. And just as the spiritual life is incredibly enriching, I think so many of us pick one, and it costs us a lot. We live half lives. And so when you're able to combine the two, you're able to really pull out all of the nectar that life has to give. You're able to show up in a way where you think, damn, life is just this blessing, and I'm so thankful that I'm even given the opportunity to be here. I'm so grateful. And that's a totally different space than, I'm a victim, this happens to me, I'm so unlucky, why is it never my opportunity, I never get a good break. When you say those stories, you're just reprogramming your subconscious mind or reinforcing what you've already believed about yourself. So let all that stuff go. Just take the mask off, just relax a little bit, and let things begin to happen for you.
Having a healthy ego also allows you to say no when you mean no, because you start to figure out who you are, what you stand for, and what you won't. And having the confidence and courage to be able to say no and not be moved by it. You know, a lot of the times we feel so guilty for saying no, but that's only because we don't know who we really are and what we really want. And so we kind of are on a whim of other people's requests. And so when we build up our ego, basically what we're saying is we know who we are, we know what we want, and we know what we won't put up with.
Even if it's fake.
We're all just pretending anyway.
Life's different when you think of it as a game. When you think of it as non-serious, when you think of it as just roles that we all play, and we play out all these different kinds of things in our mind, and we play many different roles. It's not just you just have one. Remember, the way you want to build the ego up is to have multiple roles. You're going to have one role that you're going to have in business. You're going to have one role that you have in your close relationships.
Yeah, you're not going to treat your boss and your intimate partner the exact same way.
Unless they're your boss.
Oh, whoa now.
Hey.
Boss man. So ultimately, having a healthy ego is being in harmony with yourself, your physical, that mind part of you, and then the spiritual part. And so it's really important for you to have the confidence in yourself, most importantly. And if that's something that you struggle with, we've got a masterclass on that. At this point, I think you guys know we've got a masterclass on any topic to help up-level your personal and spiritual development. So if you're struggling with building up a healthy ego, moving through the pain of the past so that you can feel worthy, feel good enough, because the only reason why we don't have confidence is because somewhere along the way, somebody has said to you that you're not good enough, you're not lovable, or whatever the case may be, or you went through an experience where you then started saying that to yourself. And all of that can change right now. So join us inside the Elevated Life Club so that you can access the Confidence Masterclass to really build up the healthy part of your ego that's here to not only protect you, but also to set those boundaries, to say no when you mean no, and to have the courage to go after things that maybe you didn't have before, that you feel called to move forward, but you're just afraid.
Life is yours. Go out and get it. Go be that rhino.
Boom.
Boom.
All right, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. We appreciate you guys and all the love and support. If you love this episode, leave us a review below and tag us over on Instagram at The World by BRIT. And hey, it's Carmichael with your aha or takeaway from this episode, and we'll catch you soon.
Peace.
Thanks so much for tuning in to the Elevated Life Podcast. Want more? Join us at theelevatedlifeclub.com for mindset upgrades, lifestyle hacks, and spiritual tools to elevate your soul.
Each month features a new masterclass, meditation, yoga practice, and more to help you transform your life one step at a time.
Come join the 7 or Above Club.